Okay, welcome everyone to our Saturday morning presentation that I've got together for the upcoming January My Wellness Detox cleanse that we're going to be doing as a team. This cleanse is put together by our very own Laura Jacobs and her team of health coaches. She spent a lot of years working in the realm of cleansing and coaching people on detoxing. And so her program that she does nearly on a monthly basis and takes hundreds of team members through. Some of them have been through this dozens of times through the years, but has really become an icon of our team and has done a lot to help a lot of people. We've had situations where team members have really overcome some degenerative conditions like everything from MS to other issues where they manage those a lot better. And I've seen it help just with the more benign issues like weight management. So this is definitely a program that we're blessed to have, and I'm excited to present based on one of the persistent problems we have with our body's ecology, and that's that we have a condition that stems around what I call the Great American Parasite. And that, we're going to go ahead and launch this PowerPoint here. And it's an epidemic that's happening across the nation, and it's because we're seeing a lot of changes in our diet in this day and age. We see a lot more of their processed foods and genetically modified crops. We see a lot more modified foods that have a high amount of high fructose corn syrup in them, or saturated fats, and just highly loaded with gluten and carbs in them. And unfortunately, what that has done is caused a influx of a condition called Candida. And Candida is this parasite that lives within our gut, and it thrives on these foods. And as it consumes these highly starchy, highly carb-laden foods and sugary foods and acidic foods, as it consumes this, it spreads throughout our stomach as it starts there, where it naturally evolves, and then it goes to our entire intestinal tract and then throughout our whole body, causing issues ranging from skin problems to mental conditions like depression and even adrenal fatigue. It's really become an epidemic in the world, and the governments have realized this. And in fact, many states have started to outlaw excessive consumption of sugary foods and colas and other things like you see in New York and California, especially over in Europe. They've really put a ban on so many things that are causing this epidemic level of Candida. So we're going to talk about this topic in particular because I feel like in the realm of dealing with cleansing and the detox, there's a lot of things to get out of our body, but this epidemic is affecting us more than anything else. It's an epidemic because it affects 8 out of 10 people in the United States at an excessive level. And like I said, it's a problem. So what is Candida? Let's dive into this. Candida is naturally occurring in the gut. It's a sugar fermenting yeast that helps us to balance the gut flora. It's because it's natural food for the good bacteria in our gut. Now, our digestive tract relies on this good bacteria. As you can see from this picture, we have a healthy digestive tract that's lined with villi that does the job of digesting food after the gut flora works to break it down. So the gut flora plays a really important role in digestion, but it also is essential in that it acts as a natural immune barrier or protective layer for our body. So when it comes to our ability to combat disease and pathogens and other things, good bacteria is our primary layer of defense. Now, since it keeps harmful bacteria in check and spreading throughout our system so it doesn't become a systemic infection, it's vital that we keep this in balance. And also, it keeps undigested food from going rancid in our gut. So you can see how important tending to this gut garden, or gut flora, as it's called, is to our overall health. And so let's take a look at what happens, though, when we have an imbalance, or what I call an invasion of the body snatchers. So this imbalance of Candida, or Candida overgrowth, is known as candidiasis. It's when more harmful pathogens and fungal yeast occur than naturally beneficial bacteria. So there's a imbalance ratio, or an overgrowth. So what is that overgrowth? How does it occur? Well, it starts in the gut and intestinal tract. First, the Candida starts to grow because it's being fed all the things that it loves to consume. It multiplies, and then it takes on its next stage of life, which it mutates into a fungal form. As a fungal form, it becomes very insidious. It starts to grow roots. It taps through the lining of the stomach. It secretes a lot of acids that eat away at the lining of the stomach, causing a lot of issues, such as leaky gut and acid reflux, other things. In addition, it obviously at that point damages the intestinal tract. And overall, it causes, because it's tapped through the lining of the stomach and you got leaky gut, it causes what's called auto-intoxication, or the self-poisoning process. And so we've got a lot of experience in my own home with that because of other issues outside of Candida, but this is definitely a very life-threatening condition to have leaky gut. Now, let's talk about the Candida specifically, because once it goes systemic throughout the body, it can live in different areas of the body. The technical term for the most pernicious version of the Candida parasite is Candida albicans, and it is very parasitic. It feeds off other organisms. It needs a host, and that host is the human body. It doesn't care if it's just sitting within the gut, consuming the sugary foods that we feed it, or if it goes throughout the whole body, consuming everything. So it has harmful effects on us as their host. It consumes our nutrients and leaves us depleted. It also sorry, I got to grab my tea here. I got a little detox tea this morning. So 1 second here. Just a wee bit of congestion. It produces, so I need the detox coming up pretty quick here too. Definitely something I'm looking forward to. So Candida also produces a waste, a byproduct, if you want to call it, their excrement. And this is known as mycotoxins, aka fungus excrement. And these mycotoxins are known to have over 70 known byproducts of toxicity. So it's pretty potent as far as what it does to the body. Now, how did we get here? How did we end up with an overgrowth? And why is it 8 out of 10 people in America suffering from this condition known as candidiasis? Well, we have to start with the terrain. What's changed is our terrain, or the things we've done with our body, or even our environment. So the first thing is we've become excessively consumptive of medications and steroidal creams and pills. Antibiotics have caused a huge problem in our gut flora. The Z-Paks particularly are harmful, and they're used in excessive amounts. There's a time and a place in life-saving conditions where once in a while, like in a very few cases, would this be something you'd want to take. But in today's day and age, we are being prescribed these medications on a daily basis sometimes. So we also have a problem with overeating in America. And it's centered around excessive consumption of carbs, sugars, poor dairy, synthetic yeasts. So all of these things, along with they're found in processed foods and also genetically modified organisms, also known as GMOs, cause a major problem. Now we're also very, very guilty of consuming daily amounts of acidic drinks and sugary drinks and energy drinks, ranging from everything from your Monster drinks to your coffees. So all of this very much leads to a imbalance of our gut flora as it eats away at the good bacteria and feeds the bad. Now, foods also can contain good foods can contain problems too. They can be toxic. In fact, they have pesticides and hormones and antibiotics injected in before they arrive at our table. And so we need to cleanse those foods. We need to clean them off. We need to buy hormone-free and antibiotic-free foods as much as possible. Now, some of the other things that contribute, obviously, we're going to see a lot of use of oral contraceptives nowadays, especially in the youth and the younger generations. This is all steroidal-based, typically, and other hormonal-based things that throw off our gut flora. Also, unfortunately, sexual contact with a partner with candidiasis will spread it back and forth. Our use of daily items that are antibacterial products cause a major problem as it eats away at the condition from our outside in. Chemical exposures to cleaners, detergents, and household goods. We need to clean those things up and use safe products. We have a lot of issues with the change of our terrain in our gut and our bodies with heavy metals coming from mercury and things like amalgam fillings that we may have got in our earlier days. In our homes, we can find mild and mold spread throughout. We'll find also conditions with adrenal fatigue from prolonged stress and other conditions that kill our energy levels. And then finally, stress also compromises our immune system along with toxicity. So all of these things have changed our terrain and made us very susceptible to lots of conditions, but particularly what we're talking about today is Candida. So let's look at the results and the byproducts of Candida, see why it's such a problem, because many of us may not know why Candida can be so harmful to our overall health. So let's start with the first thing that's the most relevant to Candida. Candida as a byproduct produces a condition. Remember I said it's a sugar fermenting yeast. And as a result of sugar fermentation, it produces alcohol. It's an ethanol type alcohol, so it automatically leads to brain fog or feelings of being hungover. It overwhelms the liver, it damages the liver, it adds extreme toxic load to the body, it increases the acidic level on the pH scale of our body exponentially. So we're left with an acidic condition that leaves us open to both inflammation and disease as it compromises our ability to fight the pathogens. Pathogens love acidic environments. It also produces, on the hormonal level, false hormones known as estrogens, and which it signals the thyroid gland to do things that it would benefit it for its survival. And it stifles our metabolism as well. So it is a master at controlling its own environment to get what it wants. We're going to look at that here. So how do we spot conditions of Candida overgrowth? Like I said, it exhibits itself in a lot of ways, and it's found in 8 out of 10 people in America. So what are some signs and symptoms we may have this overgrowth going on? Well, the first and biggest is probably digestive issues. We have gas and bloating that occur from when we eat. That means that our gut flora isn't properly breaking down those foods, and as a result which means we have an overgrowth of other things that aren't digesting well, and that persists in gas and bloating and diarrhea and constipation, along with then it turns to heartburn and acid reflux. And then as it progresses, it becomes a fungal infection that coats the tongue. So all these things are symptoms on the digestive level. But it's not just the digestive system. Once it goes systemic, it starts showing itself up in immune compromising and adrenal fatigue ways. So we're going to see more frequent colds, and we're going to see urgency, burning, frequency of urination, UTIs, the urinary tract infections, also as well as in allergies. This is how I can tell that my overgrowth is really coming on, is my allergies and influx of colds comes on. Intolerance to chemicals. We become chemical sensitive. We even start to become sensitive to essential oils. To be honest, it's what happens in our gut has a big bearing on how well we can handle any type of good or bad chemicals. And it usually shows up like, for example, people can't tolerate lavender on their skin. Asthma is is a condition that may be contributed to Candida, as well as nasal stuffiness, congestion, and runny nose. So there I am. Today is my sign that I need a little bit of a cleanse going on. So after the holidays, we've all indulged a little too much, I'm sure. So more signs and symptoms, starting with the skin now. It's gone systemic, so at this point, the Candida is starting to rove around the body, and it finds places to hide. And sometimes it's the skin, and so we start seeing things like dry, scaly skin, acne, rashes. So on a note on lavender, lavender is great with skin conditions, but for some people that have a chemical sensitivity due to what's going on in their gut, lavender may actually cause some rashes if this gut is not being handled. So in those cases where people may have an ill reaction to an essential oil, then we need to turn to what's going on in the gut. If they're putting it on their skin and they see an outbreak, most likely that chemical sensitivity is stemming from what's going on in the gut. So we got to turn in on to cleansing the gut. Now, this is some pretty classic symptoms of Candida, fungal conditions. Like I said, it's evolved into something fungus related. So we start seeing thrush, rectal and anal itching, vaginal yeast infections, vaginitis, jock itch for the guys, athlete's foot, nail fungus. So those are classic symptoms of Candida, and very, very persistent symptoms as well. It takes a lot more treatment to deal with a lot of this. So it also affects our reproductive system. And so we start seeing infertility issues and endometriosis, decreased libido and impotency. So for the guys out there, or women that want to see their guys a little bit more happy with their sex life, well, let's look at getting rid of Candida so we're not spreading it back and forth between partners. Now, why quit at just all those symptoms? We also know that inflammation is at the root of a lot of toxicity, and inflammation causes pain. And so we start seeing the inflammation showing up in the joints as joint pain and stiffness, muscle aches and pains, bone aches and pains, and headaches. So all these things are the final, ultimately symptoms of something off balance in our bodies. And I would submit that it's a lot of times what's going on in our gut with the overgrowth of Candida and not having enough good bacteria. Okay, well let's top it off with a little bit more here. Anything that goes on in the gut is going to have a direct effect on the mental or emotional side of our body. So we're going to start seeing some very pronounced conditions with anxiety and depression, brain fog, poor memory, lack of concentration, fatigue, an overall feeling of sickness, not feeling well. Candida is particularly destructive on our serotonin levels, which is one. So if we're lacking that feeling of joy and happiness in our life, let's start getting rid of some of these things that detract from that from a chemical standpoint. So there's a lot we can do from other areas, but chemically, certainly we are needing that serotonin to feel well. Well, finally, here's the cherry on the top. Candida, since it really is a hormonal disruptor, can cause some major problems with weight management. So if we want to manage our weight better, we need to address it from what's going on from our hormonal standpoint and deal with the Candida. Okay, so how do we get rid of all that? How do we deal with all those symptoms? Well, let's understand the nature of the beast. And yeast is the problem in many cases. So why can't I get rid of Candida with medications or just changing my diet? Well, here's the problem with just medications. Candida has a very naturally protective, strong defense system. As I mentioned before, at one point it changes from yeast in the gut to a fungus in the bloodstream and throughout the body. It's protected by an armor-like cellular membrane called a chitin layer that gives it a super protective, strong layer that's impervious to weakened immune systems and most medication treatments. So all that happens at that point many times is the medication deals with the yeast that's in the gut, but it doesn't deal with the fungal mutation of the Candida once it's gone systemic, and because at that point it's in areas that the medication can't touch. So we need to strengthen our immune system. We need to take away the things that give it its naturally defensive barriers. And so let's look at these mechanisms. First, you got the chitin layer, the protective outer layer. We need to deal with that. Second, we need to know that Candida is capable of dormancy for years. It can go into a hibernation that can't be starved out with restrictive diets alone. It needs to be dealt with at the blood, you know, the blood level, as far as the bloodstream and within the gut as well. So it's a systemic treatment that we need to do. Also, as I mentioned several times, that Candida is known for its ability to influence the body through hormonal excretions. It creates a glucose craving response in the body. Basically, it's saying that it has a way of influencing our hormonal state to say it needs more sugars. And so it may not be you that is craving sugars all the time. It is most likely the overgrowth of Candida and its hormonal excretions. It's telling us more sugars, more carbs, more starches, more unhealthy foods. So let's talk about the 7-step process to getting rid of Candida, and it's encompassed in our 30-day cleanse. We used to call it the Kicking Candida Cleanse. Today, it's more officially known as My Wellness Detox because it's dealing with a lot more than just Candida. The detox is dealing with all types of toxicity and other issues. But it's the same principle, and we have all the same tools. So first off, obviously, we see that we need to learn to eat a diet that restricts what Candida wants. It starves down the yeast. So we need an anti-yeast type diet. We also need help in balancing the pH levels in our body so that we're not sitting on the acidic side. We need to stay away from things that are acidic in nature so that our body can get back to a well-balanced pH level. More alkaline in effect. Third is that we need to use therapeutic grade probiotics to refeed, repopulate, replant the gut garden that we need to have in balance, all the good bacteria. Fourth is we need to take supplements that kill the yeast in the body and then also continue to kill the fungal infection throughout our body, as well as outside the gut, but throughout the whole bloodstream and everywhere else that fungal infections can be within the skin, in all the reaches of our body. We need to support the immune system because, as always, the body is the mechanism for healing itself, and we need to stop disrupting all of its ability to heal by getting rid of all of the what we call disturbances to our health. And so during a cleanse, we're going to work on mitigating all those disturbances so the body can get back to healing and so we don't have a compromised immune system. We're also going to clear out the yeast as it dies off, because anytime we have a influx of imbalanced pathogens in our body, if it starts to die off, we have toxicity levels that skyrocket, and then we start seeing ill effects, what's called cleansing reactions, or Herxheimer's effect, if you want to get it the technical term. So it can be very uncomfortable sometimes to have that die-off occur if you're not properly clearing it out as it dies off. So we're going to work on that during the cleanse as well. And finally, we need to repair the gut. We need to get that leaky gut under control so that it's not we're not having the auto-intoxication going on within the body. So those are the 7 strategies to the My Wellness Detox that we do over the next 30 days. So step 1, just as an overview, you're going to go into a lot more details during the detox, but step 1 is to control that Candida diet, It means that we're going to drive Candida growth way down by eliminating sugars or anything that turns into sugars, carbs, drinks, everything that's acidic. We're going to control mold or anything that controls mold or fungus during that diet, specifically during that month. This is really in a specific diet to help really get everything back into balance, right? And starve out the yeast. Second is we're going to eat things that promote healthy gut balance. So lean proteins and clean meats that are void steroids and hormones. We're also going to look for high quality protein. We're going to look for good fats. It's particularly fats that are high in caprylic acids, like coconut oil is exceptional. And also you see a lot of avocado oil out there and other nuts and seeds and good butters like ghee. But we're going to avoid peanuts like the plague. So various peanuts are very inflammatory, unfortunately, and it's really hard on the system. So I always see a lot of people with peanut allergies these days. Okay, then on to good carbs, because there's simple carbs and there's more complex carbs that are going to help restore the balance. And those carbs are going to be found in our dark leafy greens, our non-starchy vegetables, our low sugar, low glycemic fruits like berries, lemons, limes, grapefruits. Oh, the beans and legumes in some limited quantities, and of course our squashes too. So those are good foods that we're going to focus on. We're going to say no completely to processed foods during the diet, during the cleanse. So get rid of those simple carbs and sweets. Processed foods are Candida's sweet dreams. It loves the sweets. And all these foods also lack all proper nutrients and fiber that's necessary to feed good bacteria. So we're not only do we feed the bad, but we starve out the good, which is a terrible process of dealing with Candida. So we're going to get rid of all these simple carbs, and all these things are addictive. It's because Candida thrives on these processed foods. So here's the fact, though. During the cleanse, or any time really, Candida is doing its insidious work of trying to survive. And it does it by secreting these hormonal signals to the thyroid and to the brain saying, feed me, feed me. So the thing is, it's kind of like that body snatcher. It's do you have these cravings of your own, or are they your fault? Or are they something else going on? And the answer is, most cases, it's not your fault that you have these cravings for the pizzas, the pastas, the saturated fats, the sodas, the drinks, all the things that we shouldn't be consuming, obviously, because it's not doing any good to our body. In fact, it's doing all the bad. We got to recognize where those cravings are coming from, and it's from the hormonal survival mechanism that Candida produces to become prolific throughout the body. So let's be aware of that. Now, there's some good news to this. We can use some sweeteners in limited quantities going forward. No, not all sweeteners are created equal either. There's sweeteners that can be used sparingly, such as xylitol, stevia, and raw honey. Because it's antibacterial, it kills the bad. These things can be used in limited quantities to help flavor and sweeten foods. Some of these we'll want to avoid during the cleanse, though. All right, now let's talk about starting with good nutrition, because that's the building block of getting everything back on par and getting things working again. So we need to deal with some inflammation. We need to deal with all the free radicals that have been created through our diet, and we need some herbal immune supporting protection. So we use the Lifelong Vitality to do this, plus we're getting all our healthy fats to feed our brain through the omegas that we find in the Z Omega portion of the Lifelong Vitality pack. Love this package. It's a value in and of itself. At just over $70, you can't find these three supplements anywhere else in this type of format for that price. So believe me, I spent hundreds of dollars trying to do it beforehand, before I had this as individual supplements. So, and they're all the essentials that we need. Now, step 2 is we're going to talk about balancing pH. We're going to get our diet back to a a more alkaline-based diet, which is more alkaline foods than which we call the 80-20. And it's not just foods, it's most of our drinks need to be more alkaline-based. We got to get rid of the acidic drinks, and that does mean coffees. At least you're going to want to tackle that beast during your cleanse. So we also need to start clearing out the crud. And so we're going to use enzymes to break down food, but it also clears out the rancid and built up issues, or the compacted foods that go rancid in our guts, so, and in our intestines. So Terrazyme breaks down all of this throughout our whole entire intestinal tract. We need to drink a lot more water, and it helps if we purify the water and balance it out with lemon oil. And lemon is really good with the filters of the body too, like our liver. If you ever use lemon in a plastic cup or styrofoam cup, you're going to see what I'm talking about, as it breaks down the petrochemicals. And those same petrochemicals have built up in our filters of our body. So lemon does a great job of killing that toxicity in our body and dispensing of it. But we need to drink lots of water while we're going through the detox as well, because we want to flush that out. Also during the detox, let's be more balanced, be aware of stress. So using a lot more of the emotional aromatherapy, like balance essential oil, is going to be great to balancing the blood chemistry and balancing our emotional wellness. So let's try to avoid acidic items, and chlorine, caffeine, sodas, all those things, all equate to acidity. Step 3 is we're going to look at incorporating probiotics, and then we talked about that to balance the beneficial bacteria in the gut. And we take a special probiotic that doTERRA has that I really have found very unique in the industry. It's a strain of probiotics that encompasses multiple avenues of probiotic strains, and then it also has encapsulated both a prebiotic capsule and then inside a secondary capsule that's for the probiotics, and so it gets down to the lower intestines. And as much as possible, if you can be eating healthier versions of your food, like fermented vegetables and cultured foods, that is very helpful as well, because those contain probiotics. Now, probiotics do another job. They kill, during the cleanse, we're going to be using a natural version of antibiotics through what we call GX Assist, and that is, in essence, also going to kill some of the good bacteria. So we need to repopulate all the good bacteria with probiotics. And it's, and also here's the good news, is that that probiotics, like I said, eat on the Candida. So we need to get more good bacteria in our gut than we do the bad bacteria in the Candida. So Candida is opportunistic. It looks for times that when it doesn't have competition, and then it starts to proliferate, and that's when the imbalance happens. So we need to be taking our probiotics consistently to keep that balance in effect. Now, I've got a little analogy here for us with the chimney sweep. So I mentioned before, as our body is starting to cleanse itself and we have die-off of the Candida and other pathogens, we need to open up the chimneys of the body. These are our channels of elimination. It's our bowels and our urinary tract and our skin and our respiratory system. All of these things are channels of elimination. We need to sweep the chimneys so all that soot and all that filth and all the pathogens can leave. So we use 2 particular supplements. One of these we talked about before, but it's essential that we take Xendocrine complex and Terrazyme complex to flush out the system, to keep everything moving quickly and efficiently so that we can avoid any kind of discomfort with the die-off or even during the cleanse. And so it's essential that we're using these 2 throughout the whole entire cleanse to keep that the chimney swept out is in effect, and keep everything moving. So the crux of our whole entire cleanse is to go in and kill off the yeast. And so we use some of the big guns to do this. I mentioned before that we needed to weaken the outer layer of the Candida as it forms its chitin layer around it. And that's what the Terrazyme and the Xendocrine and other things our immune system does. But now, once we weaken the layer, we're into our cleanse far enough that we can start getting into the antifungal treatment of using GX Assist and other things like oregano and melaleuca. And we're going to target certain parts of our body. Remember I mentioned at times Candida sets camp up in certain areas of our body. So there will be times where we need to add other oils in, like thyme oil for both male and female, coriander for the skin, cinnamon is great for blood sugar, clove for thyroid, rosemary for adrenals, clary sage for the hormonal issues, and myrrh for the skin. There's other oils as well, but these are great ones to add into the cleanse as well, to put on topically or even take internally. So the cleanse starts off with 15 days of pre-cleanse. Then we get into the 10 days of the heavy hitter with the GX Assist. And then at the very end, we're going to repopulate the gut using PB Assist. And we're going to take a double dosage of that to quickly recolonize the gut. And then, of course, you can repeat the cleanse throughout the year as needed. At that point, we're going to need to look at what are we using in our life that's contributed to compromising our immune system. And a lot of times it has to do with stress. Many times it has to do with sleep. So we have lots of great products for sleep and reducing stress. We also have to recognize that we use a lot of antibacterial products and other cleaners and things that are unhealthy to our body ecology. And so we need to clean that up and start using natural versions of this. And so essential oils mixed in with many of our day-to-day health cleaning health products is great, because all of this is going to have healthy benefits to our bodies, as well as taking their supplements and finding things that can help with our energy levels. I'll give a little specific tip on energy levels. Instead of taking caffeinated drinks, we may want to consider naturally caffeinated things that are, naturally stimulating things like herbs and other things that naturally stimulate the body. And one great herbal complex that we have within doTERRA is one called Mito2 Max. It is a powerful, powerful herbal complex that would do a great job of boosting your adrenals and giving you the energy that you need instead of taking caffeinated drinks that are very acidic. So finally, we're going to notice that we're clearing out the yeast and it's dying off. And during this time, the die-off of yeast does release toxins and other acidic substances, which gives us that die-off symptoms. Can cause sluggish or poor elimination, cause us to have a lack of dietary change because we're not feeling well, or just simply detoxing too fast and we're not supporting our channels of elimination enough. We may even have temporary allergic reactions as this occurs. So we need to just make sure we're really staying on top of our clearing out our channels of elimination, especially with taking Terrazyme with each meal. And also taking it on an empty stomach. So we take it with the meals so that we can digest the food better. But we take it on an empty stomach so that we can deal with the die-off, so that it can go right to the areas where the die-off is occurring, and we deal with that. And as I said before too, it also weakens the outer layer, the chitin protective layer of yeast. So Terrazyme becomes one of the most important things we're taking during the cleanse, not only when we eat, but in between meals as well. And then we also add in the Zendocrine oil to cleanse out the filters of the body. So between Terrazyme and Zendocrine, great ways to deal with the die-off. So what do emotions have to do with all this? You notice that many times we're emotional eaters, or we're not sticking to things that we know we need to be doing, and that's typically revolving around our emotions. So let's look at the emotional terrain and why sometimes we feel powerless. We'll start, at times we get a little bitter or resentful, and there's oils to help with this. If you go to your resource books like Essential Oils and Emotions, done by the Enlighten Group. It's a great book that talks about some of these combinations that we can do. Like thyme is great for resentment and bitterness. We also have some blends now that are exceptional for this in the new aromatherapy blends. So we also have other oils that we've talked about in the process of killing off Candida that are also supportive of our emotional state. So not only are we dealing with Candida, if you're using these oils in the die-off or clearing out the Candida, but it's also helping our emotional wherewithal. Because Melaleuca is great for the victim mentality, emotions, and myrrh for feelings of deprivation, coriander for feelings of betrayal, oregano for feeling invaded, cassia and cinnamon for feelings of powerlessness, and clove for those parasitic relationships. So do you see how all these oils that we've used in dealing with the cleanse also has emotional benefits for us, which is brilliant. So the question finally becomes, can we heal all these things that we looked at before? And the answer is yes. We need to start with our gut first and foremost, and then you can start dealing with things a little more on a deeper level, but always start with the gut. And so we do have an invitation to join us on a 30-day group-led Candida cleanse for the new year. So the goal of the cleanse is to strengthen the body, and we've talked about all the ways through dietary change, lifeline vitality, using On Guard. Frankincense is one of my favorite things, by the way. Opening up the flow with Terrazymes endocrine, killing out the yeast. All these things we're going to go over in detail and have a support group during the cleanse. So the cleanse, again, is called My Wellness Detox, aka Kicking Candida Cleanse. We don't, it's not the title anymore, but we do, it officially goes by My Wellness Detox. It's a coach-led group detox. There's a guide, an action plan that comes out with this cleanse. There's weekly checkups. There's a Facebook group that's involved. There's meal planning tools. It's a 30-day program that starts off January 8th. So you got to be ready within a couple days here. They ask that you show that you've got the product you need to get started. It is a menial $20 to get started on the registration, and I'll be posting that registration link for everybody here on the on my page. With my page is Success Simplified, and that's where you guys all found out about this as well. Or on my personal wall as well, I'll post the link for the cleanse for our group this month, so you can get started. That, in a nutshell, is the preview or intro to the My Wellness Detox. To deal with, particularly, we focused on Candida, but there's so many more things to the cleanse. It'll help with a ton of issues in our lives that may be plaguing us, but it's worth the effort, guys, and it's definitely life-changing. You can do this multiple times throughout the year and see great results, and you'll feel balanced. You'll see many more results you want, and you're going to get back to some good eating habits and a lifestyle. So let's restore the terrain. Let's get back to healthy balance. Get rid of all that industrialized terrain that's been set up in our gut, and get back to a more healthy, natural terrain. So thanks for joining us, everyone, and I look forward to seeing many of you join us on the cleanse. This will be recorded so that you can share it with others. And at this point, if there's any questions, I'll take those offline, but I'm going to stop the recording at this point. Thank you, and look forward to seeing you soon.